Praise be to Jesus Christ. In the previous video, we talked about the preparation of the lamb for Passover and how that related to Christ and how he prepared himself as the Lamb of God by spending time in his household. Now, though, we're going to talk about the Passover sacrifice itself. So for the Jews, after the family obtained a lamb, the lamb was brought to the temple to be sacrificed for Passover. So the Passover was probably the most important of all the feasts. So all of Israel would come and make a pilgrimage to the temple to sacrifice an unblemished lamb. The first century historian Flavius Josephus notes that on the feast of Passover, the number of sacrifices was 256,500. That's how many lambs would be sacrificed. And then he notes that which, upon the allowance of no more than 10 people who do the Passover together, it'd be around or under 2,700,200 people in Jerusalem celebrating the Passover. So in other words, all of that is to say that Jerusalem would just be brimming with pilgrims on the feast of Passover, and that blood would be constantly pouring forth like a river in the temple. So when the lamb was brought to be sacrificed on that Passover day, the Jews would sacrifice it in a manner that really could only be described as a crucifixion. Because to sacrifice the lamb, the Israelites would drive these thin, smooth staves of wood through the shoulders of the lamb in order to hang it and skin it. And then in addition to the first rod, that first rod placed in the shoulders, it would also thrust an additional skewer of a pomegranate wood through the Passover lamb from the mouth to its buttocks. So St. Justin Martyr, in his work Dialogue with Trypho, the Jew, supports this comparison, noting that the lamb, while being roasted, resembles the figure of the cross. For one spit transfixes it horizontally from the lower parts up to the head, and the other pierces it across the back and holds up its forelegs. So the parallel here to Christ and the institution of the Eucharist should be pretty obvious, right? So just as a lamb was crucified during the Passover celebration, so too was Christ crucified in like manner. It's a perfect prefigurement. And so when we gaze upon Christ on the cross, remember that God didn't decide to die for us right then and there. It wasn't a split-second decision. The cross itself is a symbol of how God loved us from the very beginning. His whole plan to descend and die for us was a plan of love that was prepared right after the sin in the Garden of Eden. And this plan was slowly unfolded with the Jews and then fully revealed with Christ. And so, again, the cross is not only a symbol that God loved us even in death, but also a sign that God loved us from the very beginning. Stay blessed, everyone.